Hello, welcome to Hazel Jane Tarot, or welcome back. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I am going through my top music of 2020, but I'm also associating each of these musicians with a tarot card. So just to make it a little bit more tarot related. And I'm also putting together a playlist of one or two tracks from each of these artists in a playlist that you should be able to find on my channel if you want to check out some of these artists, if any of them are new to you. So the tarot deck I'm going to use is the Druidcraft Tarot, which just sort of felt appropriate. I think genre-wise, there's a little bit of maybe a slightly more skewed towards folk influenced music, so sort of felt that Druidcraft was appropriate. Anyway, so starting off then, not in the least bit folk related, one of the albums I've listened to a lot this year is Taylor Swift's Lover album, and I'm going to associate Taylor Swift with the Princess of Cups. So I'm very late to every party, and Taylor Swift, you will be surprised to find I literally had never bought one of her CDs until this year, and I'd watched that Miss Americana film on Netflix and I'd really enjoyed it, and so sort of bought a bunch of her albums to listen to and wasn't terribly keen on some of it. This is the one I enjoyed the most, and as you'll maybe heard me mention before, I have a little girl who's 2 and she really enjoyed this album as well, and sort of dancing around the kitchen to some of the songs, was one of the things that I enjoyed doing towards the start of this year. And this is an album I've listened to quite a few times, just while I've been driving, and it sort of has a general sort of upbeat quality, some really good tunes on this album. So that has been one I have very much enjoyed this year. So I haven't quite decided as I'm filming this which songs from these albums I'm going to put in the playlist. So if you check the playlist attached, you'll find out what I've recommended. Okay, another artist that I really enjoyed this year who had a new album out is Laura Marling. So Laura Marling's new album is called Song for Our Daughter, and this I've associated Laura Marling with the High Priestess. So if you're familiar with Laura Marling, you'll probably know why, but Laura Marling is a genius, really, and she's still quite young. I think she's still in her 20s. She's released a huge range of albums. Her music is incredibly unique. She's an amazing guitar player. She's a beautiful singer, but she chooses to play with her voice in a really interesting way, singing around the note sometimes, rather than trying to sing in a beautiful way. She sings in a very expressive way, and her lyrics are sometimes, some of her songs are quite, they feel like they've existed for a long time. They feel like they're folk tales, but they're not like their original music, that she's created. And then some of her music is really rock oriented and uses electric guitars and has a heavier sound. So she's just a really incredibly creative musician. So I picked the High Priestess because it's like, she's just channeling something. She's a really special musician. So if you're not familiar with Laura Marling, I really recommend you check her out. I don't know if Song for Our Daughter, this year's album, is my favourite. I've also been listening a lot this year to A Creature I Don't Know, which is one of her earlier albums. This is a brilliant album. Another thing that I especially love about Laura Marling this year is that during the lockdown earlier in 2020, she made a sequence of Instagram videos where she was doing tutorials on how to play some of her songs and some of the unique tunings that she uses, and sort of took you through step by step how to play her songs. And I really enjoyed working through some of those and learning to play some new tunings and learning to play songs that had previously been inaccessible because I wouldn't have been able to work out by ear how she'd played it. So that was awesome, and very generous of her to share. And some of those are available on YouTube. Somebody has shared them onto YouTube. So if I can find one of those, I'll link that in the comments below if you're interested, if you play guitar. and you're into her music, you might want to check that out. Another artist who did some YouTube tutorials during the lockdown was Laura Veers, and I have chosen the King of Wands for Laura Veers. Laura Veers is an artist who I've sort of was recommended by a friend years and years ago, and I've sort of slowly, been accumulating more albums of hers. This is one that I always listen to in the summer, July Flame. So this is the one I've picked out, but I have a number of her albums that I listen to quite a bit. She's very creative, and very sort of in command of her creativity and her songwriting, which is why I went for the King of Wands. The Laura Veers music isn't showy. It's very, the guitar parts and the vocals and the lyrics. There's very well constructed songs, and really, just really nice, and quite a good variety of styles as well that she plays with. And I really love her work, and not every album is the same. She has a really creative approach to songwriting as well. And like Laura Marling, Laura Veers did do tutorials on YouTube this summer or this spring, on how to play some of her songs, which I really enjoyed working through as well. So I'll see if I can remember to link that below too. But if you check out the playlist, there'll be something recommended from Laura Veers as well. So far, 3 female voices, and I think most of what I've been listening to this year actually is a lot of female voices. One male voice that I listen to a lot is Josh Pike. Josh Pike is an Australian singer-songwriter, and I have associated him with the King of Cups. The Josh Pike's music is there's something, sort of an emotional centeredness and maturity to his songwriting that just felt like it resonated with the King of Cups. Josh Pike does have a new album out this year called Rome, but it hasn't been available to buy on CD in the UK yet, so I don't have it yet. I prefer, as you can see, I'm a bit old school. I prefer to listen to and buy CDs than to stream music, and partly that's to do with how I'm able to play music at home and in the car. CDs are the best format for me at the moment. So, and I do like having the physical object as well. Going through the little booklet and the liner notes and the art on the CDs and so on. This album has a bit more of a wintry vibe, and it's one I've been listening to as the weather has been getting cooler. The beginning and the end of everything, as you can see there, that says 2013, so this is a few years old. So his new album is called Rome, and I haven't listened to it at all, so hopefully I'll be getting that soon. But yes, I have been a big fan of Josh Pike since I was introduced to him when I was living in Australia. His music is, for me, characterised by really lush harmony work. Like almost all of his songs are completely harmonised all the way through with multiple vocal parts of male voices. So himself and I don't know whether it's he sings in the harmonies in the recordings or if there's another vocalist. When I've seen him live, he did have like a band and other people harmonising with him. Kind of singer-songwriter, indie pop, bit rock, bit folk, that kind of end of the sort of music genre. But this song, I think I know which song I'll put on the playlist from this album, be Warm You in Winter, which is just wonderful. But yes, I have all of his albums apart from the latest one, and I do listen to him a lot, but this is the one that I've had out the most this year and highly recommended. Okay, going on. Another album I've been listening to a lot as the days have been getting darker and colder is the Unthanks, Mount the Air. This is an album that I bought maybe 2 years ago. It's 2015. So there's the singers. So the Unthanks are sisters, and they're the principal vocalists, but there is a kind of a band with them as well. This is very definitely folk. I've picked death as the card to associate with this album because, well, folk songs, I mean, there are a lot of the songs are about death. They're about they do work with mainly old tunes, traditional songs. They're from the north of England, and then they kind of the arrangements, the unthanks arrangements of the songs, and the harmonizing and the instrumentation are just wonderful. I will probably put in the playlist the title track from this album, Mount the Air, which is an incredibly long track. But if you do enjoy really sort of lush orchestrated music and lovely harmonies and just music that evokes a mood, it's really worth listening to the whole way through. This is a lovely album. I mean, some of the songs, like, I mean, the third song there is called Died for Love. A lot of these folk songs tell about, you know, young girls who've got pregnant by some guy who's ran off and left them, and then they're, you know, they've had to abandon their child, or they've died, or they, you know, that sort of those sort of sad old traditional narratives that come across in a lot of these songs. It's just a really lovely album, and especially one for the winter. It's got that sort of vibe. I discovered the Unthanks through at the Belfast Cathedral Quarter Festival a few years ago. They played in a church, and the concert was just amazing. I'd never heard of them before. I went on a recommendation of a friend, and I was in tears at the concert. It was so moving. The music was beautifully played and executed, and singing was gorgeous. So yes, so if you don't mind some music about death, the Unthanks, this Mount the Air album, I think it won a Best Folk Album prize maybe the year that it came out, but it's wonderful, so highly recommended. Another folk album, a sort of different context that I've enjoyed this year is Rising Appalachia. The album is called Ley Lines, and this is an American folk band. I discovered this band through my YouTube recommendations. It was sort of like popped up in a watch next sort of list, and I clicked on it and really enjoyed the couple of songs that I listened to and ordered the CD. And I've really enjoyed this. And I've picked Temperance as the card for this album. The sentiments explored in this album are really, really warm and comforting, and sort of to do with the balance and the humanity of people, you know. And I think for 2020, which has been such a rough year for all of us, the messages in this album have been really great to listen to sometimes. So I mean, like, there's a song about speaking out and, you know, being loud. There's songs about I mean, they're just really nice. I'll have to have a think about which album. Probably Resilient. I think Resilient is the song I'll put on the playlist, because I've listened to that a lot this year, and I've found the words of that, you know, I am resilient. I've found the words of that really, really powerful this year. So that's Rising Appalachia. And finally, and probably my favourite of the year, is Alanis Morissette's new album, Such Pretty Forks in the Road. So I am of the vintage that I grew up in my late teens listening to Jagged Little Pill. So Alanis Morissette's maybe just a few years older than me, and that sort of the angry energy of Jagged Little Pill was just, you know, in the late 90s, it was just the thing for a 17-year-old who hadn't experienced any of the things that she was singing about, pretty much. But the energy of it was just so resonant. And I've followed Alanis Morissette, you know, through a number of albums. I saw her live once anyway, maybe. I don't know if I saw her twice. I definitely saw her perform once in Belfast. And I really loved watching her, and I've really enjoyed her over the years. This album, I have to say, is a little bit hard to listen to the whole album at once, because there's a sort of intensity to each song. I've chosen the Queen of Swords as the archetype for Alanis Morissette for this album because, you know, she's just directly looking at some really very difficult emotions and experiences and singing about them and telling about them in a really truth-telling way. So the first 3 songs on this album are amazing. So Smiling is fabulous. Ablaze is the song that she's written about her son and daughter, and about the chorus is, my mission is to keep the light in your eyes ablaze. And there's a wonderful recording of it where she was performing it like at home, you know, with all the social distancing and so on. Like her her performance of the song was at home, and she has a little girl on her knee, and the little girl's like taking the microphone off her and stuff, and it's just, you know, as a mum of a young girl, it just, I mean, I was crying watching it, listening to it. It's really touching. But the favourite on this album, I think, is The Reasons I Drink. It's just really powerful, and it's one of those songs that I could listen to in the car, get to the end of the song, and then just skip back to the start of the song again and listen to that one song over and over again 3 or 4 times in a row. So that's the one I'll definitely put in the playlist. I might put the live performance of Ablaze as well if I can find it. I mean, the other songs are great too, but I find I kind of have to switch in and out of it rather than listen to the whole thing at once. But great album, and brilliant to see Alanis Morissette recording and releasing music again. So if you have watched all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and I would love to hear what your favourite music of this year was. And if you disagree with my tarot archetype picks for any of these artists, if you're a fan of any of these artists and you're saying no, that artist is much more a Queen of Cups or whatever, I would love to have that discussion with you in the comments below. And if I've inspired you to go and check out any artists that you weren't familiar with before, I would love to hear that in the comments below. That is going to be I've filmed now my top 5 books of 2020, my top music of 2020. We will be back. Normal service is going to be resumed, and it'll be tarot only content from here on out. But if you've watched this, thank you so much, and I will see you again soon.